Hello everyone, I welcome you all to Answer Me TV. For those of you who haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so by smashing the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss any of my updates. The late Tsvangirai for Biography. The late Tsvangirai was born on the 10th of March in 1952 in Gotu, Southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and he died on the 14th of February in 2018. He was a Zimbabwean politician, leader, and a trade union activist known for his dissent against the policies of Zimbabwe's long-time serving president, the late Robert Gabriel Mugabe. He formed a power-sharing government with Robert Gabriel Mugabe and served as the Prime Minister of Zimbabwe from 2009 to 2013. Tsvangirai failed in his attempt to unseat Robert Gabriel Mugabe in the 2013 presidential election. Tsvangirai, eldest of 9 children, Tsvangirai left school at a young age to seek employment to assist his family. He began working at Trojan Nickel Mine in 1974, and he was an active member of the Associated Mine Workers Union. In 1988, after working his way through the ranks to the labor organization, he became the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, ZCTU, the National Federation of Trade Unions. In 1997 to 1998, Tsvangirai successfully led a series of strikes against Robert Mugabe's taxation policies. He also served as a chairman of the National Constitutional Assembly, a non-governmental organization formed in 1997 to support the creation of a new constitution for Zimbabwe. The Rise. In 1999, Tsvangirai founded the Movement for Democratic Change, MDC, which attracted a younger generation of Zimbabweans, particularly urban workers. They were less interested in Mugabe's historical role as Zimbabwe's founding father and more concerned with his economy mismanagement. Within months, the new party helped to defeat the government over its referendum on constitutional reform, which included clauses allowing the seizures of white-owned farms without compensation. In the 2000 general election, his fledgling movement loosened the ruling party's usual iron grip on power, gaining 57 of the constituency-based seats against 62 held by ZANU-PF. The 2000 election saw the MDC threaten Mugabe's stronghold on power. It was a result without precedent in Zimbabwe, where opposition parties had never held more than a handful of seats. In addition to the government's dramatic defeat over its constitutional reform bill, Tsvangirai won an aura of credibility that was enhanced by the general election result. Tsvangirai himself was not elected, turning down the opportunity of a seat in one of the cities where the MDC's support was strongest. He chose instead to stand in his home district, which, like most rural constitutions, was won by ZANU-PF. Now seen as a real threat to Mugabe's presidency, Tsvangirai was arrested shortly after the election and charged with making threats against the president, accusations that were later dismissed by the court. The split. In 2001, Tsvangirai made a speech condemning the massacre of anti-Mugabe rebels in Matabeleland in 1984, when an estimated of 20,000 people died. It is known as Kukurahundi. In his speech, Tsvangirai promised that those responsible would be brought to justice should the MDC come to power. He was arrested again in 2003 after using a press conference to accuse Robert Mugabe of using violence and intimidation to maintain his hold on government. Officials of the MDC found themselves at loggerheads in 2005, with some members, including Tsvangirai, arguing a boycott of any future elections until it could be certain that a vote would be free and fair. The resulting split proved a disaster in the Senate elections, with MDC candidates winning only 5 of the 60 seats. But despite the internal rows, the MDC was still gaining popular support and was perceived by Mugabe as a major threat. In 2007, Tsvangirai was again arrested. Later, he was taken to a local hospital where TV pictures of his injuries were taken by a freelance cameraman. Reunited. Just weeks after the beating, the raiding of MDC headquarters, and again Tsvangirai was arrested. On 29 March 2008, with the MDC still split, presidential and parliamentary elections were held in Zimbabwe. The results of the presidential election were withheld for more than a month amid allegations that the government was attempting to rig the ballot. After a recount, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission declared that none of the candidates had achieved the required 50% and ordered a second round of voting. Despite the smiles, Mugabe was determined not to share the power. Tsvangirai, appalled by the news that the now reunited functions of the MDC held a majority of the parliamentary seats, initially agreed to take part in the second round. But his campaign was facing some difficulties, with rallies being attacked and getting stopped now and then. Just days before the poll, he declared that a free and fair vote was impossible and withdrew from the contest, leaving only Robert Gabriel Mugabe as the only candidate. In July 2008, Tsvangirai met Mugabe for the first time in a decade as a prelude to negotiations of a possible power-sharing government. Against a background of continuing challenges, a deal was hammered out whereby Mugabe agreed to surrender day-to-day control of the government. In February 2009, Tsvangirai was sworn in as the Prime Minister of Zimbabwe. Despite the agreement, Mugabe continued to hold the reins of power. The policy of land reform continued. The MDC were decidedly beaten in the 2013 elections. Tsvangirai faced fierce criticism from many sections of the MDC, which claimed his decision to share power had allowed Robert Mugabe to remain in the office. He also failed to stand up to Mugabe in what was supposed to be an equal partnership, allowing the wily president to make up the rules as he went along. The result was a loss of confidence in Morgan Richard Tsvangirai's leadership, which eventually led to a crushing defeat for the MDC in the July 2013 elections. Just 2 months later, Tsvangirai resigned as the Prime Minister, and Mugabe underlined his dominance by abolishing the post. Richard Morgan Tsvangirai, although a consummate orator, lacked Mugabe's political nous and innate cunning, and even Tsvangirai's supporters said he was often outflanked by the president. But Tsvangirai had the courage to face down the violence, intimidation, and give ordinary Zimbabweans the hope that there was an alternative to the discredited Mugabe's regime. In the end, he lived to see the overthrow of the president he had battled for so long. I thank you for watching. Bye-bye for now.